As you approach your third trimester, you may find that you want to make a bit of room in your pelvis as baby gets bigger. Sometimes you can feel a little bit stuck, or sometimes this can actually contribute to pelvic pain or sort of aches and pains around your whole pelvis. So I'm going to show you a few exercises now that will help make a bit more space for baby. These can also be really good if you're trying to get baby to turn, or if you're trying to get baby's head down into your pelvis in preparation for birth. So the first one that we're going to do is going to just be a little rocking exercise. So for this one, what you want to do is bring yourself over onto all fours. You're going to make sure that first of all your hands are directly underneath your shoulders, and then you're going to take your knees a little bit wider and bring your feet in towards each other. Then you're going to take your hands slightly further forward so they're a little bit in front of your shoulders. You're going to take a big deep inhale in, and as you exhale, you're going to try and bring your hips back as close to your heels as possible. So you should have plenty of room here for your bump, and if you don't, just make some adjustments with your hand placement so that you do. Then you're bringing yourself forward again as you inhale, and then exhale, bringing yourself back as far as you can. This is a really nice lengthening exercise for the pelvic floor, so it can also help if you have extra tension in your pelvic floor too. So you're working with your breath, moving nice and gently back and forward. You can also use this exercise when you're in labour, so during the sort of breaks that you get in between your contractions. This is a really good way to just keep moving and even sort of distract your mind from what's going on. Another exercise that you can do to help you make space in your pelvis is cat and cow. So this might be quite a familiar exercise for some people. You're going to bring your hands underneath your shoulders, knees go underneath your hips, and you're just going to jiggle around a little to find a neutral spine. Then once you've found that position, you're going to take an inhale and you're going to let your belly be heavy and your chest come forward and your gaze go up. And then as you exhale, you're going to press into the ground and curve your spine in the opposite direction. So we're just making lots of room here by going through cat and cow. Really nice, especially if you've been sitting all day, or if you're just feeling a bit achy and a bit sore, you can also use this exercise then. So just working with your own breath and moving through. The final exercise that I'm going to show you that you can use to make a bit of space in your pelvis is one where you need to be sitting. So you bring yourself down onto the floor. You're going to sit in a cross-legged position. If you've got, like me, a little bit of tension in the hip flexors, you might want to get yourself a little prop. So you could get a blanket just to rest one of your knees down on. You can also use, if you have handy, a little Pilates ball. That might feel a little bit nicer for what we're about to do next. So bring yourself into a comfortable seat. You're going to bring your hands together, and then you're going to take a little lean over just towards the knee that's placed on the prop if you have it on one. Your knees might be down towards the floor, that's totally fine as well. So you're taking a little lean over, and you're just going to press gently into this space just before you feel that bony part of your knee. So you press your elbow in there gently, and then you're just going to trace along your adductors or your inner thigh muscles, and you're just giving them a little bit of a massage and opening up some space in the pelvic area. So if the adductors are really tight, this can cause a lot of tension in the pelvis. It makes it kind of difficult for the pelvis to open. So we want to try and relax these as much as possible. If this position is difficult because of your bump, you can place a hand back behind you and just very gently push with the heel of your hand in and away, and that should help too. You don't want to feel any pain in your pubic bone when you do this. If it feels really painful, then stop, reach out to us for some advice or to another healthcare provider. It should feel like quite a nice movement. It should feel quite opening and relaxing, especially if you've got tight adductors. So you'd want to do that maybe 3 times, always working from the top down, and then you would switch over to the other side and do your other side either with your hand or with your elbow in. So now we're going to talk about exercises to help relax the pelvic floor. It's really important that the ligaments around the pelvis are able to lengthen. This is their function to help you in childbirth. So we want to do some exercises to help encourage that relaxation of the pelvic floor. One of the exercises that's really good for that is to do a deep squat. Now you might be someone who's super fortunate and you can just sit right down in a deep squat with your heels down. And if that's comfortable for you, then please do it. If you need a little bit more support, you can use something within your household. So maybe a chair or something that's fixed and heavy that isn't going to fall down on you or cause you any harm. So just make sure that you pick something like that before you start. And then you're going to bring yourself down into a squat. Now, if your heels come off, that's totally fine. If they're still on, then you can keep them on. I've just got my hand on the chair just for a little bit of support. I'm not leaning on it. I'm just using it just for a little bit of extra support for me. And then you're just going to take a little rock from side to side. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to keep my heels down as much as possible. And I'm just tracking my knees over, getting a bit of flexion into my feet. And already I can feel that I'm getting a bit of stretch into my pelvic floor when I do that. I'm opening up through my adductors, my inner thighs, which also helps access the pelvic floor as well. And I would just do that for as long as I felt comfortable. And if possible, I might want to sit right down in a deep squat if I can, just with the chair for a little bit of extra support as well. Before sort of 27 weeks, you'll probably still feel okay lying on your back. Past 27 weeks, you might still feel okay. You just might get a little bit of dizziness or sickness. If at any point you're doing an exercise where you're on your back and you feel dizzy or sick, please stop and reach out to us or your healthcare provider for some advice. So this exercise is really good for helping to relax the pelvic floor. What you want to do is come down onto your back, and you can use a chair, or if you like, you can put your legs up against the wall. You want to shuffle in so that your bum is in as close to the chair as possible, and then bring yourself down onto your back, and you're just going to let your legs completely rest. So it's really important that the seat of the chair comes up to the back of your knee, so you're not having to grip or hold on in any way. And you're just going to lie here, and you're just going to go back to your visualization of your pelvic floor. So with the eyes closed, becoming aware of your whole pelvic floor. And we're not encouraging it to do anything, we just want it to completely relax. We'd want to do this one maybe for around 3 or 4 minutes, or for as long as you feel comfortable. Just being mindful of not being on your back for too long, especially if you're into those later stages in your pregnancy. This exercise is another great one for helping to relax the pelvic floor. It's also a great exercise to use when you're in labour, or just at any point where you have any aches and pains around your pelvis and you just want to create a little bit more space. So you will need a birthing ball or a yoga ball for this one. You're going to bring yourself over onto the ball. You want to be on your knees with your hands on the ball. Then you're just going to take the ball a little bit further forward, so you've got some space here for your bump, and you've got a bit of support with your hands on the ball. And then you're just going to take some little rocks from side to side, maybe some little circles if it feels okay, using the ball for support and just really creating that space between your sit bones. You might just want to stay in one space with a really gentle rock. If you've still got room and your bump is still small, you can actually bring yourself over the ball, or even as long as you've got space for your bump, it doesn't really matter what stage of your pregnancy you're in, just giving the ball a little hug and just sending those relaxation vibes towards your pelvic floor.